going to tell you a little bit more about who we are here at Ben Milam.
Let me make sure our sound is working. Hold on.
Yeah, thanks.
Give me 1 second. I might play it from my computer instead. It's being a little funny. I apologize. Here we go.
This is that ice cold Michelle Pfeiffer and white gold. This one for them good girls, straight masterpieces. Stylin', wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chucks on with Sailor on, gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty. I'm too hot, hot yeah. Call the police and I'm fighting, man. I'm too hot, hot yeah. Make a dragon wanna retire, man. I'm too hot, hot yeah. Say my name, you know who I am. I'm too hot, hot yeah. And my band about that money. Bring it down. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk gon' give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk gon' give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk gon' give it to you. Saturday night and we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. Come on. Don't believe me, just watch. 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 Hey, 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 oh, stop. Wait a minute. Fill my cup, put some water in it. Take a sip, sign a check. Pull it up, get the stretch. Out to Harlem, Hollywood, Jackson, Mississippi. If we show up, we gon' show out. Smoother than a fresh drop skippy. I'm too hot, hot yeah. Call the police and I'm fighting, man. I'm too hot, hot yeah. Make a dragon wanna retire, man. I'm too hot, hot yeah. Hot yeah. Yeah, say my name, you know who I am. I'm too hot, hot yeah. And my band about that money. Bring it down. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk gon' give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk gon' give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk gon' give it to you. Saturday night and we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. Come on. Don't believe me, just watch. 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 Hey, 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 oh! Uptown, funk it up. Uptown, funk it up. Uptown, funk it up. Uptown, funk it up. Come on, dance, jump on it. If you can't dance, then phone it. Well, it's Saturday night and we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. Come on.
And that has been Milam Elementary with a quick video. So we want to go ahead and continue. We're going to talk a little bit about our neighborhood and our surrounding area. We have a actually the one right before. There we go. We have all of downtown Dallas and uptown Dallas from 75 to Turtle Creek in our attendance zone. We have in our surrounding area, we have Southern Methodist University, Church of the Incarnation, and Trinity Church. They all help with our school and with our initiatives, and so we're excited about being in such a lively urban part of Dallas. And so we're going to continue to use that for our advantage and for our students' advantage as well. I mean, we get Southern Methodist University. Not only do our students take field trips, but we actually have had students graduate from SMU. So that's one of our previous students right there in that photo. So we're excited about that. Also, we have in our community the two churches that I mentioned, Trinity Church and Church of the Incarnation. They help with student backpacks, they help with supplies, they help with tutoring, they help the teachers with incentives. So we're going to also continue our work with the community through those two churches, and being able to get the word out about Ben Milam Elementary will be important at these two areas because we have one that's closer to downtown and one that's closer to Highland Park. Our feeder schools, our two main feeder schools are Spence and North Dallas High School, but we also send quite a few students to Ignite. Ignite does recruit here at Ben Milam, and we do send a good chunk of our 5th graders there every year to 6th grade. So we're excited about our partnership with Ignite. Milam students, we have had a student who is the North Dallas High School valedictorian, and we currently have a student at Hockaday who is the class president. So we're excited about the opportunity that our students get. And so we also like to share that with our community as well. Our enrollment history. I know that our enrollment, we are a small school, but we have consistently been a small school. So from 2015 to now, we hover at about 280. We're at 270 as of today. So I know that our goal is to get at or above 300. And at this point, I'm going to have Mr. Smith, who is our assistant principal, who will start talking about our teachers and our staff.
So the cool thing about the uniqueness of our enrollment history, if you'll go back one more, is that yes, we have been a school that has maintained kind of a small enrollment around 300 or a little less, but that's the uniqueness of it. We've always been a small, unique school tucked away in the uptown, and that's the appeal to a lot of our parents and families as we are a small school, and that has actually drawn to where 60% of our families are outside of our attendance zone. That choose to come to Milam because of the family orientation and the smallness of our school and how unique we are set up in uptown area.
Right now, the breakout rooms, and so they just collaborating with each other to brainstorm some questions that they're going to want to ask you. And so this is really their first opportunity to really connect with EDs beyond the observations. That
Microphone.
That confused me. But the cool thing that we are super proud of is how our Milam teachers have been recognized by the state. And out of all of our teachers, and we have a small number of teachers, we have basically two per grade level, but that at our campus, we had a high percentage that the state recognized. And most of, if not all of these teachers have been a huge part of our assessment for learning process throughout the years, which Ms. Barbie will talk more about. But not only that, every single one of these teachers is DTR or on their way to be DTR as well. So we are super proud of the recognition of our teachers. Ms. Galvan, I think you're on mute.
2008, after I was at Milam for 3 years, we were nominated and were awarded the National Blue Ribbon Award. So we're very proud of that, but we do realize that that's 2008. That's a long time ago. So we are consistently working to make sure that our academics is high, and we have shown that because 2019, 2020, we were rated a B school and we are a breakthrough campus. We actually had an A from the state for student growth, so we're very proud of that. And we attribute that to our work with assessment for learning, which is what you're going to hear about from Dr. Barbie in just a moment.
All right, so back in 2017, we got a grant from the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, and we adopted 4 campuses, with Ben Milam being one of our 4. They have consistently been fantastic in implementing the work, and we've been allowed to bring in other principals, campuses, and central staff into their campus to show models of excellence, specifically around that idea of student agency and what learning can look like. So former Chief Yvonne Durant said that they restored her faith in the joy of learning. We developed these model classrooms through AFL, and again, the goal is really to increase student agency and equity by disrupting the hierarchies that typically occur in a traditional classroom. So we really want teachers and students being equal partners in the learning, as opposed to the teaching falling only on the teacher. So we focus on metacognition, learner autonomy, self-efficacy, and self-regulation strategies in addition to content, so that students have these very transferable skills as they go from grade level to grade level, content to content, and they can take them with them. And then April 26th, Milam will meet with Corwin to start their process for Visible Learning certification. So Visible Learning Plus campuses really put the John Hattie's Visible Learning research into action, and really connect and harmonize existing school and system initiatives in order to build capacity and sustainable growth over the course of the year. And this work is really to accelerate student learning by really focusing on those research-based practices that have proven effective. So we're excited to meet with Corwin and start them on their Visible Learning certification journey.
Thank you. And so how are we going to get the word out, and how are we publicizing that, and how are we making a connection to our parents and to our community, not just our current parents? We currently have school tours. We provide tours to families, and we're going to begin providing tours to our neighborhood realtors. Virtual tours, we are going to have that on our website and our social media. We are using Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We also have our class dojo, which is what helps us coordinate and connect with our parents. So we're going to just continue to take advantage of our DISD's communication department and all of the information and the coordination that they are providing for us as well. So that is our presentation, but our big idea and the one that we're going to keep growing with is assessment for learning, and we hope to grow that into visible learning. Thank you.
Any questions from our sharks?
I guess I'll start with one. So this is very research-based and very driven in terms of, I'm an educator, so it sounds appealing to me because I'm an educator. How, and if one of the ultimate goals is to increase student enrollment, how will you market this so that it's something that appeals to your students, potential students and families?
Kirsten, do you want to talk a little bit about the goal on student agency?
Sure. So from a marketing perspective, it's all about like when you're drawing in parents, they want to know that their students are getting a great education. So the conversation at home shifts from what did you do today to what did you learn today? And to have a first grader to be able to tell you like, oh, I learned to identify shapes like trapezoids, rhombi, and rectangles according to their attributes using their sides and vertices is an incredibly high level conversation that a parent might not understand. But that idea that students are able to communicate their learning, I think, is very important to parents. The idea that these skills will not just stay with them from elementary, but will increase as they they'll be able to take them with them throughout their levels of learning is really important to a parent. So one of the reasons that we lose students to charter schools is that idea of, is my child getting a great education? And when you can ask students, and it's not just like, oh, we just did stuff, we didn't do anything, I didn't learn anything, and they're able to articulate their learning, I think that is an important selling point for parents.
And right now with virtual learning, I can tell you I've had a lot of conversations with parents that are saying that as they watch the kids on Zoom and they watch what they're doing, they're very impressed with the level of knowledge that our kids have, especially for self-assessing and for understanding what it is that they're doing. So I think that for us, our goal has always been on the student learning process. And so as far as marketing, I think we are going to have to think about that a little bit more, just to make sure that we come up with some because I know it's different. It's different when you're trying to actually just do the work versus when you're trying to sell the work. Those are two different things. Doing the work, Milam is very good at doing the work. I'm going to just put it out there. We're excellent at doing the work. I think the area that we're going to have to grow in and that we're probably going to need a little bit more feedback is in the marketing and in the selling it and knowing exactly what sells, because I'm an educator, like you said. We're not I didn't go to school to be in marketing. But I know that that's the reality of what we have to do now. So I think that that's going to be our biggest area of growth. And I'm just going to start asking parents, what is it that you like about Ben Milam? What is it about the learning that we have here? What is it that's different from other schools? And just grow from that.
I have some feedback. It's not really a question. Rashonda, do you want that right now or you want to wait?
Yes, I want to wait. We're just doing questions right now.
Okay.
My question, and thank you for the presentation. I'm just considering your journey and everything that you've already accomplished up to this point. It sounds like you're building on what's already there with the assessment for learning, and you're scaling that or adding to that the visible learning pieces. So considering where you've gone and where you're headed, how long do you think it would take to build this program out?
We started this work in 2017, and so it's 2021, and we're at a good point. Obviously, COVID came in and kind of stalled a little bit, but we anticipate within the next 2 years to really get a good foundation going for visible learning and for the certification. I do know that that is a 3-year process.
Okay.
So this coming year will be our first year with that, and then that's going to be the introductory year. And then the year 2 and year 3 will be the more substantial years that are going to be a lot more work, and we're going to need some more funds for those two years.
Have you identified how much funding would be needed?
I have been working with Dr. Barbie on that, and I think I think we got the final numbers, what was it, this week? Can you share those?
Yeah, so the initial certification, so there's 3 levels of certification from Corwin. You're an associate, then you're a partner, and then you're a certified visible learning. And so we're putting 4 campuses through the first certification this coming year, and it'll cost about $60,000. Now, they can train X amount of people, like up to 100 at a time, so we're able to train multiple campuses at once. Once campuses start embarking on their own separate journeys when they pursue the higher levels of certification, it'll be about $25,000 to $30,000 for those certifications in the coming years. And each certification is good for 2 years.
Thank you.
I have a question. You talked about marketing being one of the supports that you would need. What additional support would you need in order to make your campus a success?
I think right now we're looking for additional support in the terms of, one of the things that I would like to see here at Milam would be a coordinator for this work, because it is a lot of work, but it is the most quality work that we do. And so if I could have somebody dedicated to that, that would help tremendously, because it would help coordinate all of our efforts into our one effort and pull us all together. Right now, our CIC does do a great job with that, Ms. Mifucci, and she works a lot with Dr. Barbie. And I'll be very honest, I'm a little jealous of all the other schools because we didn't have to share Dr. Barbie before, but now that we're growing, we do. And so I'm beginning to see just how much we are going to need somebody dedicated to the work on campus, because as she moves and grows the program at other schools, we miss her. We see that she really did a lot to help us as well. So I think that that's going to be one of the biggest areas, is going to actually be a coordinator.
Ms. Galvan, I'm looking at your data right now, and I'm assuming you have a lot of transfers into your building.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, because your data, your census data, doesn't match your enrollment data in a crazy way, and I'll tell you why. You've got more Asian kids that live in your neighborhood that are not coming to you than Skyline High School has in their neighborhood. So knowing that, my question is, what would be y'all's plans around circulating and getting involved with like Uptown Inc. and the realtor side of selling and marketing and because I'm thinking visible learning. We don't really have a first model of that, Kirsten. And I know Arlena's reached out and asked me a couple of things, but really making sure what y'all want matches what that community wants too. Because where you've got more Latino kids coming to you than live in the neighborhood, but you have no hardly Asian or white kids coming to you based on the number of Asian and white kids that live in the neighborhood. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that makes sense because that's the way it's been for 16 years. And I think that we need to do something to change that, because when I started here 16 years ago, Uptown didn't look like Uptown, and all of these $500,000 condos didn't exist. We had parents living across the street in little apartment complexes that they could afford. We would walk across the street and go do parent visits, home visits. And so the neighborhood has shifted, but our school demographics hasn't shifted. So one of the things that we are doing and that we have talked about is talking to the realtors and making sure that we are connecting with them and making sure that as people move into the neighborhood that are, I mean, we had somebody that was coming from, I forget what country, an Asian country, and like you were talking about, the Asian children, our Asian population, and they came and did a school tour, and so we're waiting to hear back from them. We do have a lot of competition as far as the Montessori that's downtown that opened up, and we do have some of our private schools. We have Church of the Incarnation that does have a private school down the street. So we are aware of that. But I think that as the neighborhood changed, we didn't really change our marketing. We didn't really do anything. It's always been a word of mouth and the families. We have generations of families that have come to Milam and continue to come to Milam. So that's the area that we're going to have to really grow in and stretch ourselves in. That's why we're doing more with social media, trying to get out there, trying to get our name out there, and just trying to be actually, for lack of a better word, more visible actually.
I have a question to kind of build on the enrollment data. I'm just curious, I've gotten to experience Milam firsthand and have been grateful to come and visit. So I know once you're there and you get to see it, you feel a part of it, right? So I'm just kind of curious, what are you seeing with families? Are you retaining families once they're there in like pre-K and kinder, or are you seeing that some families move into vanguards or magnets and stuff at like the upper grades, or making transitions out? I'm just kind of curious if you guys have seen like that.
They stay, and for the most part, what you find that happens is that families think that they're going to want to leave, and then they do leave. And then about 3 months later, they give me a phone call and they say they want to come right back. And they're like, what do we do? Please tell me you have space. And so we have had a lot come back. And I say, sure, come on. Because I tell them, are you sure you want to leave? Are you sure? And they're like, yeah, it's closer to home. It's, they can walk. And when they leave in Milam, it doesn't matter if you live across the street from another school. They're willing to drive 40 minutes to come back, and they do. So we're proud of that.
And that's been a part of, why we do have some that are outside of our attendance zone, because they were a part, they moved away,
right,
and then now they left the school for a month or two, and they're like, no, this is where we want to be. And so, some of that is through generational families, and some of that is through they were a part of our attendance, and then now they moved away, and now their kids they want them at Milam. And so that's been a part of our history.
And I'm very proud of our customer service here as well, from our office staff to my admin team to the teachers, because one of the common threads that I hear from parents that do come back is that they feel wanted and cared for here at Milam, and they feel respected actually. They come back with stories about how, and I know it's about other schools, so I'm not going to say names or anything, but in general, they come back and say that they didn't feel wanted or cared for or respected when they go somewhere else. And so I think that is an area that needs to be looked at as well.
I have a question when you're thinking about from the end of a customer, right? So the customers that are in the school are really, right?
I'm sorry, I lost your volume.
You cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the customers that are in the school are really happy. And I think it's figuring out, how do we create a opportunity to message, package, sell what we're doing, so the customers who haven't come into the store are willing to come into the store to see what we have. And I think that's the key, is stepping back, thinking about what you're proposing from the perspective of the end user, right? So ultimate goal of visible learning is for students to be what? How do you turn that, create that, and craft that and design something? How do you create, craft, or design that into something that external people who don't know anything about Ben Milam will want to at least take a look at what you're providing? So I think it's really great from a technical, practitioner's perspective. But if I'm the lay parent in the community, I heard a couple of things. Ultimately, it's so that students are critical thinkers, problem solvers, and able to do this, and maybe thinking about how do I connect this as, a college on-ramp. You got to figure out what is that hook that you're ultimately trying to create so that it appeals to the people who aren't inside so that they want to come take a look inside. So I don't think our questions are really about your school, right? Because that's not so much what we're here to help you do. And our pushing your thinking is about that other part. So it's how you tell your story.
Yes.
Way that makes sense to the people who aren't yet biting your fruit. So what do you identify? What do you pick apart? What do you say makes you uniquely Ben Milam that you can find a hook that people who have not walked in the door are at least willing to say, let me take a look at this? Because what I hear you saying is once we get them inside, they stay. But the part that we have to figure out is how do we get them to come take a look inside?
I think there's some great community opportunities that we have presented mainly for our families as well that possibly would be a good opportunity to open those up to that community, and the people within Uptown and our surrounding neighbors. So that is inviting, them into our place with the strength of our families that are already there, as well as, with us being there, inviting them as an outreach to bring them in.
But I think I understand your question, because like assessment for learning and visible learning is what we do to help make sure that they're successful. But like if I was at a Leader in Me campus, then I'd know that my child would get leadership skills. Or if I was at a two-way dual language campus, I know that my child was going to have two languages. So I think I understand that, and I think that we're going to have to work through and come up with a better description of our students at the end of this process than we currently have. And that is something that I think will be beneficial to not only Ben Milam, but to all the other schools that are participating with assessment for learning.
Yeah, Principal Galvan, I will tell you, when you look at the data, your legacy at that school has been incredible, because I just told you, your census data shows there's about 330 kids that are supposed to go to that school. If every kid enrolled, only 70 are Hispanic, and you got 170 that are Hispanic. So you have found a way, when the white and the Asian kids didn't come, to network and keep your families over time and keep you higher than normal, right? So it's thinking through how do you, through the next, 2.0, the next 20 years with Uptown, continue that. Because I'll also push to say, I lived in Uptown for 20 years, and I'll promise you, 80% of that area is apartments. And so it's a weird area. So, that's, other than making visible learning something that you can sizzle, Kristen, and I'm going to aim this at you too, because I've known you a long time, Irving girl. We want, if you want that model to be a model that we're going to really showcase, like a Montessori model, like an IB model, like a personalized learning model, Usama's point around a college pathway, like you got to bring some sizzle. You got to make that unicorn really come to life, and people have to know what it is. Like, what does that mean? Visible learning. Does that mean people are visible learning? That's a PE school. You know what I mean? That's just kind of the feed. And I know, Rashonda, you're not wanting feedback, but I can't help but give Ms. Galvan this kind of stuff, because really the data really shows if they didn't trust and love your support system right now, that school would only have 180 kids in it.
Thank you so much, Milam team. Thank you, Ms. Gaylord. What we're going to do right now is put you in a breakout room, and then we are going to debrief for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back and give you feedback. All right?
Welcome back, team. Are you ready for the feedback? It's very concise and precise. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Find out who in the neighborhood wants something that you're trying to sell right now. And number two, that model that you're wanting to sell, make it come to life more. Because right now I feel like educators will know it, parents won't. Principal Galvan, be thinking retirement or not retirement, succession plan. What does Milam 2.0 look like? Keep that going. But definitely a way to increase market share, get into Uptown Inc., get involved with the realtors and apartment locators. So that way you can, and we can help with that. We can help with that. But really it's selling it, I would say, to your Anglo and your Asian community right now that don't know it exists. They don't know what all the great things are behind the doors. And then the model, if it's visible learning, and Kirsten, y'all, we want to decide that that's a model that's viable that we want to look at for the district. We got to make it talk. We got to make it a movie, a trailer. People got to understand it. Like Kristen Watkins, director of PL. People understand PL. People understand it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is why it's different. If you pick this, those are the 5 things you get.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, team. A great start.